Hi boys and girls, today we are going to do start our new unit, which is ratios, unit 4, okay, and we're going to be doing ratios and proportions, okay. So we're going to start off with today some definitions. The first thing that I need you to do is I need you to write ratios at the top of your page and write whatever page number you are on and put this into your table of contents. Now remember, anytime you're doing this video and I continue on, you can always pause the video, you can rewind the video. That's the great thing about videos, okay? So if I'm going too fast, then you can pause it, all right? Okay, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to make sure that your handout, okay, that we did is trimmed all the way around. Then you're going to fold it like a trifold, like this. Okay, so you're going to fold it in on one line and in on the other line. Then you're going to title it Ratio, Rate, and Proportion. Ratio, rate, and proportion. Now we're going to be focusing today on ratios, but we are going to go ahead and introduce you to what is a rate and what is a proportion, using them as a definition in our little foldable here. Okay? All right, so I'm going to open it up. A ratio is a multiplicative comparison. I'm going to write smaller here. Sorry, I don't need to write A again. Multiplicative comparison of two or more numbers. Okay, so it's a multiplicative. Multiplicative means you're multiplying, okay? It's a comparison of two numbers, all right? So we're looking at this right here. The ratio of stars to circles is 2 to 3. I have 2 stars and I have 3 circles, okay? So what you should know is there are 3 ways to write a ratio. Okay, so the first way is as a colon, 2 to 3, and that's how I read it. So as a colon. The second way is as a fraction, 2 to 3. Notice I'm still reading it the same way, okay? So as a fraction. And the third way is verbal, using verbal language, 2, 2, 3. And you could even write out the number 2 and the number 3. But basically the word you're using here, 2. So that's your actual verbal description. Okay? All right. So we have colon, fraction, and verbal description. All right. Now, a rate up here is a ratio. Okay, is a ratio comparing two numbers with different units. Once again, I'm going to give you all of these definitions, and then we're going to go back and focus just on ratios. So a rate is a ratio comparing two numbers with different units. So for example, 100 miles to 2 hours. Okay, so it would take 100 miles, it would take 2 hours to drive 100 miles. Okay, now a unit rate tells me that the rate in lowest terms or the amount for 1. So instead of saying it takes 2 hours to drive 100 miles or drive 100 miles in 2 hours, I'm going to say it takes 50 miles to drive in 1 hour, okay? So 100 miles to 2 hours, 50 miles to 1 hour. Notice that these are equivalent fractions. If I divide both of these by 2, that's what's going to give me my unit rate, okay? So that's what gives me my unit rate. 100 divided by 2 is 50. 2 divided by 2 is 1, okay? So we'll be visiting that more later. A proportion is an equation. Okay, it is an equation showing two ratios are equal. A proportion is an equation showing two ratios that are equal. So once again, just like I talked to you about over here, equivalent fractions that we divided both of these by 2, Right here, I'm dividing both of these by 4. I'm sorry, I'm multiplying both of these by 4. My bad. Okay, to give me this proportion over here. 4 times 10 equals 40. 4 times 25 equals 100. So that makes these proportional, okay? They're not the same size, okay, but they're proportional, all right? So I have 10 to 25 equals 40 to 100. In a proportion, if the ratios are equivalent, then both can be either multiplied or divided equally to have equivalent fractions. Okay? So we'll be getting more into that later. So go ahead and fold your little foldable up, okay, back like this, like a trifold like you had it. Put some glue on the back. Okay, so that is your foldable, your reference guide to ratio, rate, and proportion. And so that we don't waste any paper, we're going to go ahead and start with ratios on this page. We're going to start with 3 ways to express ratios, just like what we talked about in our foldable. But we're going to show you, and they each have names. Okay, so 3 ways to express ratios. And this is the information we're going to be working from, this table. Okay, so we have animals at the vet. So that's what we're going to be working with today, animals at the vet. Once again, you can do this along with me. If I move too fast, you can always pause your video so that you have a chance to get caught up. It's a great thing, once again, about videos. So we have animals at the vet. So we have cats, and we have 5 cats. We have dogs, 7, and we have rabbits, 2 of them. Okay, made my chart a little bit too long, and then we're going to have what the total is of them. Okay, so the total pets or total animals is going to be 5 plus 7 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. All right. So when you are expressing ratios, there's 3 ways to express them. The first way is part to part. So the first part to part we're going to look at is dogs to rabbits. Okay, we're going to look at the dogs to rabbits. And it does matter, whatever is listed first is your first number. So we're going to look at dogs. Okay, I have 7 dogs and I have 2 rabbits. Okay, so what I would express it first as a fraction. So remember up here in our foldable, 3 ways to express it. We can express it as a fraction, a colon, or verbal description. Okay, so there's my fraction. Here's my colon. And here's my verbal description, 7 to 2. Notice the dogs is listed before the rabbits, so that number is going to come first. Now the second way to express ratios is part to whole. Part to whole. So I'm going to look at cats to the number of animals. Cats to the number of animals. So I have 5 cats. Now remember, the number of animals I have is 14. So I have 5 to 14. So as a fraction, as a colon, and as a verbal description. So I have 5 cats to 14 total animals. Okay, number 3, whole to part. So the number of animals this time, 2 rabbits. So once again, I'm reiterating, whatever comes first is the number that is written first. Okay, so this one is whole to part. And we'll be practicing this more in class and doing some real life examples in class. Okay, so I have 14 to 2 as a fraction, because I have 14 total animals. I have 2 rabbits. 14 as a colon to 2, and 14 to 2 verbally. Okay, so I'm going to turn the page. On the next page, you're going to have some practice writing these part to part and whole to whole, part to part, part to whole, and whole to part. Okay, so you're going to take this next piece of paper that you have, pause the video. Whoops, my camera fell down. Pause the video, and you are going to continue writing the title. Make sure you write your page number, 88. The title is still ratios, and you're going to trim around this. You're also going to trim the directions that there are up above it. So if there's those directions that you have on your paper, you can cut those off. You do not need them. And I can't get my camera to stay up here. Let's try this again. All right, so I'm going to quickly go because I only have 15 minutes for my video, and then it stops on me. All right, so I have, red cube, a red cube, a red cube, another red cube, and 2 blue cubes. Okay, so you can use your highlighters to shade those in. You can use pink for the red, and then your blue highlighters. Okay, so what you're going to do is for example, the first one says red cubes to blue cubes. So you're going to compare red to blue. So that would be part to part. And I have an example over here, and this is how you're going to write your verbal description. There are 4 red cubes to 2 blue cubes. 4 to 2, okay, as a ratio. I also want you to write it verbally, 4 to 2. And I also want you to write it as a colon, 4 to 2. Okay, so then it is part to part. So I'm going to give you 5 different situations, okay, and you are going to solve all of these on here, okay. When you finish writing the different situations, this is number 1, 2, pause the video, and then the answers will be at the end of the video. Now I'm going to pause the video right now to write the questions for you so I don't waste time. Okay, so here are the different ways that you are going to compare your cubes. You have blue cubes to red cubes, blue cubes to total number of cubes, red cubes to total, and total to blue cubes, and total to red cubes. Now remember, you're going to write this in a complete sentence. So for example, there are 2 blue cubes to 4 red cubes. Then you're going to write it 3 different ways, and then you're going to tell me if it's a part to part, a part to whole, whole to part, so on and so forth. And you can abbreviate these with P to P, or P to W, or W to P. Okay, so pause the video now. All right, boys and girls, I'm assuming that you have it done. So here is the answers, so you can check to make sure that you have done it correctly. Okay, now go to your Springboard books and you will complete an assignment about ratios in there. All right, see you tomorrow.